crazy. I'm stranded in the desert. This life gets so hot, I need a sip of you, God. Cause you're like water when I'm thirsty, yeah. Drink, drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink, drink. Hey. It's warm down here. It's hard to breathe. It's burning my eyes, Lord. So hard to see. I'm quite parched now. I need a saying. Come quench my thirst, Lord. Because you're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. Water for the thirsty, yeah. I drink, I drink.
It's like water for the thirsty. Truthfully, our souls parched. You will find them when you seek them with your whole heart. It's so hard to stay consistent through the word I'm reading. Cause the time is coming soon when every eye gon' see him in the clouds above. This is about a love that quenches the thirst, but the world offers is not enough. Taste and see from this fountain spring, you'll be lining up to get a drink, refreshing ink flowing out of cups. This life they gotta touch, to liberate them out of cuffs. The faith is undivided trust, created us up out of dust. He's worthy of fresh well of living water for the thirsty. Give her honor the first thing that I do when I'm waking up. It's everlasting life to all who desire to drink
You're
it
like
up.
water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Been a hard weekend, it left me high and dry. I've been going through the ringer, I need you in my life. Time seems crazy, I'm stranded in the desert. This life gets so hot, I need a sip of you, God. Cause you're like water when I'm thirsty, yeah. Drink, drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink, drink. Hey. It's warm down here. It's hard to breathe. It's burning my eyes, Lord. So hard to see. I'm quite parched now. I need a saying. Come quench my thirst, Lord. Because you're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. You're like water for the thirsty. I drink, I drink. Water for the thirsty, yeah. I drink, I drink.
It's like water for the thirsty. Truthfully, our souls parched. You will find them when you seek them with your whole heart. It's so hard to stay consistent through the word I'm reading. Cause the time is coming soon.
You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink.
You're here with Jared and Havanique and Z on a Ladies First Friday. Sharika will be here in a little bit. She's stuck in traffic. And we are here at the end of 4 years. I mean, you're journeyed with us, but like we've been doing this for 4 years, and it's kind of exciting for me that this is the last, like the end of year 4. It doesn't feel like that long. Has it been that long? Does it feel like that long to you? Because I know you've been watching.
No, it doesn't feel like that long.
So that means we've read.
When I saw your text, I was like, "What?"
That means we've read the Bible through 4 times.
That's cool. Maybe 3 times for me then.
Yeah, but that's exciting.
That doesn't.
When Sharika comes, I'll ask her about how she feels she's different or changed at the end of 4 years. But for the time that you've been participating, Z, how do you feel different?
Oh, absolutely. I feel different. Absolutely different.
I mean, you have like 3 Bibles now.
Yeah, I do. Trying to like get to know more and kind of understand more. That's all it is. Like, and it's like the more you read, the more you learn, the more you want to learn. Not that you wake up and say, "Well, I want to learn something." It's like it's almost like embedded now.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know more. I want to know more. I want to know more. Like, and it really doesn't feel like we've been through it 3 times. I'm like, I can't sit here and say I know the Bible from, you know what I mean?
But you've read it from front to back.
Right.
More than once.
More than once. Absolutely.
Anything that you thought would be in there that wasn't in there. Now that you think about it.
Yeah. Anything that I thought would be in the Bible that wasn't, or that I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that God was mean.
Mm-hmm. And then you found that he's mean?
God
is mean. Okay. Fair enough.
Jesus is nice. God is mean.
Oh my gosh.
Davina is saying she's finally making it through after 3 tries. This is her 4th, and she's enjoying the experience. So that's what's up, Davina. Avnik, I know you came in on the tail end, with your move and all that, but how has this experience impacted you?
So for me, it has changed the way I look at my Christian walk. I'll give you an example. So like last 2 weeks, I've kind of just been going through.
Is that a new Bible?
Yeah.
It's not. No, Ja. It's not new.
No job.
It's not new. I had it before. I had the blue one, but I stopped using this one because I had the chronological one. Then I was like, I'm tired of confusing myself
She switched
and reading the
Bibles,
wrong things. So I just went back to this one.
She switched Bibles though.
What's up? Oh, wait, sorry. Go ahead. Continue what you were saying. I just noticed that this Bible looks a little different.
No, but so I was kind of going through like a little bit of a rough patch. And I had to like towards the end of it, I had to ask myself, okay, are you gonna be David or Saul or Ahab? Are you going to turn back to God, or are you just going to continue to wallow in I'm upset and I want things my way and I'm just going to do my own thing? And so the fact that I was able to think through that, I realized like this has made somewhat of a difference in how I rationalize when I do fall off.
So it has practical application for it.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Same thing for you?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just heady and intellectual.
No.
And
I would venture to say it has literally changed my character.
Okay.
Doing this thing has literally changed. Because now anything that comes at you, you don't look at it the same way. Like I was actually thinking on my way here, I went past this place and I was like, wow, I remember going there. And I was like, man, no, it wasn't. But it may as well have been because I don't know if I would go back now and see it the same way. And I was thinking to myself, wow. And it was years ago. But I was like, man, that is so funny how I had no problem then just walking in there and doing whatever the heck I wanted to do. But when I think of it now, but the first thing that struck me was God still, like, I could have been taken out. Anything could have happened to me, and yet nothing happened. I was like, wow, God, thank you, because you sustain me even in that foolishness. So
Yeah.
it was crazy to me. Like, I'm like, wow, you know. So it's been an experience, life-changing experience for me. Life-changing, totally life-changing experience.
So how was the reading this week? Oh, since the last time we met. What have we been reading? We've been reading Proverbs, Kings and Chronicles, Isaiah,
And
Matthew. Since the last time we met. Sounds about right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pink highlight. I think it's showing off, man. It's showing off. So talk to me.
So I kind of, while I was going through my little 2 weeks of whatever that was, I didn't read.
Okay.
So I kind of have been playing catch up this week,
Mm-hmm.
and I just I listened to Isaiah because me trying to read all 20 chapters, I was like, I'm not doing that, and I don't want to miss what's happening. But Amos was like really, really interesting, and even like parts of Isaiah.
Before you go on,
Mm-hmm.
what about Amos was interesting to you?
So
Because it
Alright,
might not
let's
be
go
interesting
to-
for the same reasons I thought it was interesting. So.
okay, let's just see. So start with Amos 3. And I didn't make notes on it, but I'll just the things that I highlighted. Verse 1 says, "Listen to this message that the Lord has spoken against you, O people of Israel, against the entire family I rescued from Egypt. From among all the families on the earth, I have been intimate with you alone. This is why I must punish you for all your sins. Can two people walk together without agreeing on the direction?" Then I jumped down to verse 6. "When the ram's horn blows a warning, shouldn't the people be alarmed? Does disaster come to a city unless the Lord has planned it?" For me, there was a whole bunch of different things. I would have to, okay, so I was kind of all over the place. It jumps to chapter 5.
Mm-hmm. Chapter 5 is a good one.
"Now this is what the Lord says to the family of Israel. Come back to me." Oh, okay. Before we get there, because there was a whole lot of stuff happening in between that. Hold, please. All right, so since I highlighted it, that's what I read. "Now this is what the Lord says to the family of Israel. Come back to me and live. Don't worship at pagan altars at Bethel. Don't go to the shrines at Gilgal or Beersheba. For the people of Gilgal will be dragged off into exile, and the people of Bethel will be reduced to nothing. Come back to the Lord and live. Otherwise, he will roar through Israel like a fire, devouring you completely. Your gods in Bethel won't be able to quench the flames." And then I jumped down to verse 21 in chapter 5. And God's like, "I hate all your shows and pretense, the hypocrisy of your religious festivals and solemn assemblies. I will not accept your burnt offerings and grain offerings. I won't even notice all your choice peace offerings. Away with your noisy hymns of praise. I will not listen to the music of your harps." And even in Isaiah, some of that stuff came out too, and I was kind of just like, that's a little scary.
Why is it scary?
It's scary because for me it was, have I fallen back into that same pattern where guys like, I could care less about the tithes that you're killing yourself to give. When you don't have it, don't care because you're not acting right. And so for me it was kind of like, okay. And then like reading all the warnings and all the, I'm taking the belt off. I'm about to beat everybody. And they were just like,
How does the stories of the kings inform your reading of the prophets? Does it help, hurt, or does it provide?
It does help. It does help. So for me, it was kind of like, if God is warning, and you guys are just like, gonna do my own thing. Like, at what point do you sit back and go, okay, I don't want to get licked, so I'm gonna behave. And so to me, it was kind of just like the way they had to sacrifice and the way they had to, their religious ceremonies weren't as simple as ours. For them, it was like you're doing the absolute most. But for them to do all of that and still just be like, I'm just gonna be out here wilding, for God to turn around and be like, I don't want it. So that to me was kind of just like, you need to watch yourself, because all these things that you think you sacrifice could be nothing to God if you don't act right or if you don't listen, if you aren't being obedient.
Define act right.
Obedient. I should say being obedient. Because for me, whenever I had to make a choice between right and wrong, I always think of obedience is better than sacrifice. Listening is better than the fat of rams. Sometimes I choose, I'm going to be sacrificed. So I'm just going to go down the path of sacrifice. So for me, it's, if you can choose obedience or you can choose sacrifice, but if you keep doing that, your sacrifices will mean nothing to God. And so that, like, reading that, I was kind of just like...
Define act right.
I don't know if there's such a thing.
Why you say that?
I say that because even in reading, so for me, I'm struggling with that concept, because even in reading Matthew, where Jesus is saying the path to narrow is the way to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then and I'm sitting there like, okay, what is that supposed to mean? And then he says, oh, you know, some of you, like, those of you who, no, because I want to say it the way how he says it. When he says, I think it's in
Matthew 7. I did highlight it to
where
bring
he's
it up.
saying, if, you know, you'll come up and you'll say, Lord, Lord. And he's going to say,
I don't know you.
I don't know you. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, okay. And then while we were on that, the Bible also, we talked about, I think it was in Proverbs, where it talked about there's a way that seems right, and yet it's destructive. And I'm like, and he talks about the will of God. I'm like, hold on, is the will of God subjective, or is the will of God like, what is the will of God? Like, seriously.
Oh, so
putting all of that with what she just said, because I'm sitting here like thinking to myself, yeah, I'm struggling with the same concept, only on the
Let me
other
ask you this
side.
a clarifying question. What was God's major issue with them? What were they constantly doing or not doing?
The idol worshipping, right?
And what did the idol worship lead to? Let me ask you this.
Oh.
Does Isaiah's commentary, or not commentary, or prophecies reveal the kinds of things that idol worship led to?
So one of the things I can remember was them eating their children. Like that's one thing he brought up.
I'm gonna skip ahead and say that the eating of the children is what happens when the city gets under siege. When they surround the city, he's saying what will happen is when they surround the city and they come on an attack, things will get so bad that you'll lead to eating your children. It's not that they were eating their children at that time.
Because I thought at one point that this was just a offering to the idol.
Sometimes they were offering that they were sacrificing their children to idols. Some of them were. So that was happening.
Okay.
But yeah, it's two different things.
Okay.
What would you say was happening as a result of the idol worship? Or what was the idol worship giving way to? Or did you notice anything like that?
Z, you're gonna have to answer that question.
You mean like how they turn away from God?
Mm-hmm. Let me pull up verse and let's see, hold on, let me get the right verse. Isaiah 5.
Oh, please.
Isaiah 5. And 1. 1 and 5. 5 and 1.
Okay. One I did highlight a few things.
let's go with 5. Isaiah 5. So here you have the Song of the Vineyard. And so the first thought that comes to me for Isaiah 5 is, if God does everything right and it still don't work out, who is me?
Who's what?
Who's me? If God does everything right, because he planted the vineyard, he dug it right, he planted the seed right, he get the right amount of water, right amount of sun. It's God's vineyard. He set it up. But the vineyard doesn't grow right. Then who's me? That was the first thought that I had. But we'll see that.
Oh, see, I was listening to the Bible for Isaiah because I missed so much. So I think I probably zoned out because I didn't catch this part at all.
So what I saw was that a lot of the things. Okay, let's go from verse 20. Let's go to verse 20.
Verse 20?
Yeah.
Isaiah 5, right?
Mm-hmm. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and clever in their own sight. Woe to those who are heroes at drinking wine and champions at mixing drinks, who acquit the guilty for a bribe, but deny justice to the innocent. Therefore, as tongues of fire lick up straws, and as dry grass sinks down into the flames, so their roots will decay, and their flowers will blow away like dust. For they have rejected the law of the Lord Almighty, and spurned the word of the Holy One of Israel. One of the things I saw is that whenever the people pursued idolatry, there was rampant injustice and poor relations between the people. People were taking advantage of people and treating each other badly and abusing one another. Their personal relationships fell apart when they worshipped idols. And that was one of the things I saw. So like, even though he was saying, you'll keep worshipping idols, the things that were manifest as a result of that were, the rich were abusing the poor, they weren't taking care of the widows, they weren't taking care of the orphans, they were cheating and stealing and killing, and when you start moving away from God as the authority, what happens as a result is a descent and the poor interpersonal relationships that follows. And so that's why I was asking you about acting right. What does that look like, or what does that mean? And I'm asking because depending on what it looks like for them, we can get a better idea of what the real issues are with us. And would you say that in your acting right, idolatry is at the root of your not acting right?
Yeah.
You don't sound certain.
Yeah.
What else would you say was at the root of your not acting right? If it's not that?
Sometimes it is me. So me wanting my own way, me wanting something right away, me being frustrated at something that I cannot control.
You want it to be God.
Correct.
Idolatry. And when that happens, what do you do what comes out as a result?
Usually, so I can just speak to these last couple of few weeks, like anger. Like,
does that affect the way you relate to other people?
Oh, does it? Yeah.
Welcome.
Hello. Hey, Sharika. Yeah. Just I'm driving and I'm like, what is happening in this car? Who are you? Like, just yeah.
Okay. Does that change acting right for you?
Acting
or
right.
Clarify it or bring it together?
No, because. So you're saying acting right is.
So with me specifically, there are things that I know that I should not do. Like the last 2 weeks, I'm on the phone with people. I talk to people all the time, and I'm on the phone with people, and I have no patience for anybody. Like I'm literally in arguments with everybody on the phone. Somebody talks over me, I get mad, and I'm like, do not interrupt me. And it's just like, you need to be a pleasant person. But it's kind of like, that you're not acting in love right now, but I just don't care. I'm angry, and so therefore I'm going to bug out. Or I'm driving and somebody is riding me, and I'm in the lane that's not supposed to be a passing lane, and somebody's behind me, and I'm like, oh, okay, so now I'm just gonna drive 5 because now you're irritating me. Like, for me, it was you know better and you chose not to do better, and that was what made it wrong for me.
Knowing.
Right. Don't judge me, y'all.
No.
We all
We're
don't
around
act
2
right.
weeks.
Like, seriously.
We all don't act
We're all
right.
guilty.
What does it sound like to you acting right? In context of what she was saying, they don't seem to get it. He comes and he warns them, and they still don't act right.
I mean, because they were struggling with idolatry, and they were struggling with a lot of going after, what they had no, which, now, I can't even say they were, because I do it too, like she said, so, guilty too. But it just kind of strikes me a little odd too, because I know that, like, the whole time God is talking to Israel. Whenever we talk about they did evil in the Lord's sight, it's when they did that, And I'm like, golly, like, what's the difference though? So I can't say I act right, because I'm constantly shifting idols. You know what I mean? Juggling idols.
Yeah.
Basically.
You have like a whole.
I have tried. So I'm constantly saying,
one for
today
rain,
not this one.
one for snow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, I got you. So we were reflecting on the experience of water for the thirsty for them, and then Avanique went into things that stood out to her, and she started in Amos. And so we just kind of following on from there. Before I get to you, because I'm coming to you, I'm coming to you because it's end of year 4 and I have to ask. I'm gonna let Z go and share what happened with her this week, and then I'm gonna come back.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I had a couple of things happen to me this week. One.
Besides the couch. Go ahead.
I can't. So I went to a prayer meeting. Stop. We went to a prayer meeting. Well, something stood out. Really, really stood out with me.
All right, that's prayer
So
meeting.
it carried me, kind of like, you read something and then you never, like the Beatitudes. We've read them over and over and over and over. I went to prayer meeting and Elder Garden was leading. And he went through this whole thing with the Beatitudes, where we went through the whole. One thing I learned was that the Beatitudes are like what a Christian character should be. I never looked at it that way. I thought it was something that was telling me how to be.
Mm-hmm.
But what stood out was that he said that Beatitudes are what, as a Christian, what your life should be. And then we literally went into each and every one of them, some of them that I didn't understand for the longest. And he read it in the clear word, and we kind of like, compared, and I went back, of course, and reflected on mine. I was like, wow, I would have never thought of it that way, but that's pretty cool. So I really learned something. And then Tammy said, well, I asked Richard what beatitude is, and he said it means be this attitude. And I really loved it. I absolutely I was like, oh my god. He said he couldn't remember. He said I never said that, but I loved it anyway. I said, well, yeah, of course, if it's something that's telling me how to be as a Christian, it means be this attitude then. You know what I mean? Because it was so eye-opening for me. Like, I was like, wow, that is so interesting. Like, I never looked at it from that angle. So that's really, really, that was something that stood out.
Matthew was interesting.
Very. Now, that's just my little thing.
Gotcha.
On the question side, however, the thing that I was saying that I struggle every time I come to that verse where, Jesus is saying, narrow is the way and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh gosh.
Where is this?
This
Matthew
is
7.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put a note on it to bring it up because.
So that's verse 13?
But I don't remember what exactly I was dealing with in that specific moment, but I put a note on it to bring it up.
Okay.
Yeah, so he says not everyone.
Did you highlight that this time? Okay. I just want to see if it was all in sync.
So not everyone who says to me, "Lord, Lord," will enter the kingdom of heaven.
Oh, you
Oh,
were
that's
at
lower down.
17?
Let's go down.
Well, okay,
Oh,
so
21.
starting from verse 13, rather,
Okay.
where it says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." Okay.
Only if you find it kind of like, I was like, am I a few? Because I'd be very upset if I wasn't.
So I'm like, so this is the reason why my prayer is always, God, just do whatever you need to do with me, because I don't know. Like I feel like I'll never know that. Okay, we're good. You know, I'm in, and I want to, but I'm pretty sure I won't know. You know, but
What?
then when I read,
Wait. Why is that? I'm not clear as to why you feel uncertain or what you're looking for as a measuring stick. I guess that's what
I
I'm.
can't measure myself. First of all,
Okay.
I can't.
I think,
Like, I
honestly,
feel
though, I think, so, Agni, don't do it. I think that we had an interesting conversation last week at Water for the Thirsty, but I think that a lot of it has to do with us being stuck on works. I know I am. And the idea that salvation is free, it's kind of
Doesn't
like,
register.
it does not register at all. And I think a lot of it is, well, I have to do this. I have to get up and read my Bible every day. I have to pray multiple times a day. I have to pray for this length of time. I have to drop the tithes. I have to give an offering. I have to come to Sabbath school. I have to be at Divine Hour. I got to go to whatever they're doing afterwards. I have to do all these things because I need to make it to the kingdom. When that has absolutely nothing to do with
But see, for
making
me,
it to the kingdom.
I don't struggle with the works part of it, because I feel like what drives you to do something is what's here. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I feel like I already know that, like, because if I feel like the works, they can't do anything for me. Like, for real. Like, I feel like the work, there's nothing they can do for me. Like,
But then it still works, or it still seems like works, because you're talking about you. Like, you feel like there are times when you're not good. Right?
oh, I know there are times, not feel like.
But I don't. So, like Pastor Graham was saying on Saturday, like, the best on your very best day, the best you could do, filthy rags. Like,
Right.
There's nothing on your own. Like, you are never good. You don't qualify for salvation. But that's not the reality. I don't think that's the reality. And I have a hard time accepting the fact that I can still be this much of a hot mess and God's still like, okay, still love you, still got
Still
plans
got
for
you.
you, still waiting for you to come to heaven.
Sharika, as you are 4 times through, what's your measuring stick?
Oh.
Do you have a new measuring stick, a different measuring stick, a measuring stick at all?
It's different. I think I started off with more of an analytical approach, kind of like, all right, 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2 type of thing. Now it's more so, how often am I conversing with my friend? And so whether I'm drinking, smoking, cracking, whatever, if me and my friend ain't talking, it really don't matter what I'm doing. Because, going back to the point last week, David fell many times. Not to say that I'm trying to be David. But him and his friend, they were good, and he knew what was going on. And so I can see the perspective of, I never know if I'm in or out. But it's kind of like, I look at it as, if me and Jared is cool, is there ever a point where Jared's not going to invite me to his house? The only time he's not going to invite me to his house is if we not cool.
How does that help you? Or does it help you?
So what's enough talking that actually determines that you and Jared are cool? What's enough?
I think
How do you
I
know-
think that's relationship.
Can we change the Change the illustration.
Sure.
You and Mr. Whoever. Right? I'm sure you've been in a relationship, right? How do you know when the relationship is on good terms and when it's off? Is there a standard to tell when a relationship is off?
Well, you asking me that.
Yes, I'm asking you that.
And you're asking the worst person. I'm just saying. I'm just gonna put it out there for real. You're asking.
No, you're not asking the worst person, because guess what? Like, or even take you and Avani. Y'all are mad cool. You know when something not right. If you have a cadence of talking every day, or you have a cadence of talking every 2 days, or whatever, but you can feel, something wrong with my friend, or she can feel something wrong with my friend, or you can just something not right. Like that's just an innate feeling when there is a relationship with somebody. And it doesn't mean you stepped on her toe, you crashed her car, it doesn't mean anything. It just means something's off. And when something's off, you may not feel as comfortable being on side street that she live on and be like, yeah, try to open up your fridge, I'm hungry. Like, you're just not there, so you're not going to do it. And that's where I'm trying to be with God.
Yeah.
Where I'm always comfortable. Yo, I'm hungry, and there's nothing but you want a piece of banana bread, or you want some sorry. What you want, that type of thing. So that's how my barometer actually.
Yeah, my barometer has also changed to more of a relational one. It's like, if we committed to the relationship, the only way the relationship would fail is if one of us decides we don't want the relationship anymore and actively starts to undermine the relationship and decides to walk away. And in this relationship, he's not walking away. So if the relationship ends or there's a problem, it's because you were either never really in relationship with him, which is what you see here in Matthew 7:21. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. That Lord, Lord is more of a, I'm with him, right? So not everybody that says, that's my man.
Getting in the club.
And,
I mean, think about it. You said, yeah, LZ.
And he's saying, I don't even know you.
Like, who are you, bro?
Right?
Yeah. And I think, like, once you look at it that way, it takes away the I don't feel like I'm good with you, because we know each other, and according to the word, as long as we know each other, I'm good.
Well,
I mean, there are other things there, but I feel like the basis of it is.
But if you know me, right? And I'm gonna use. I just love Kendrick's example, so I'm gonna use his because it just works. If you know me and you know I don't like when you leave the wet towel on the bed.
Right. So
right?
because we're in a relationship, there's like even with my best friend, there's just certain things that we've been friends long enough. There's certain things I just don't do because she gonna be upset. There's certain things she won't do because she knows Avnique's probably gonna tell me about myself. So it's you get used to we're in a relationship, so therefore I don't do this or I won't do that because it's not just about me anymore. There's somebody else to consider. So I get that part of it, but for me, what I'm specifically talking about is the feeling of self-righteousness. Like I'm just not good enough to make it to heaven. If God come right now, I'm going to hell. And there is no, like, I don't think that's biblical. And I'm trying to get out of that mindset.
So, I mean, the other thing that I think like we're talking about here, if I'm relating to whether it's someone that is the mister or my friend, we have this relationship that we're cool with friends, but we don't have that relationship of master. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta do my will, son, so that you can, you know what I mean? So we can be in good books. But my struggle is, okay, Lord, like, we're cool with friends and everything, but at the same time, I have to know my place as your servant. But when I'm not in your will, how do I know that I'm in your will? What does that look like? And does that look different for Avanique? Is God's will different for Avanique? Is God's will different? Is it different per
I
Were
would
you doing the
disagree.
devotional this week? I have something to share with you.
I would disagree because I think it's Jesus that says it. We move from master to servant, from master and service to friend to friend. And so, wet towel example. When Kendrick was probably trying to win over Jewel, he gonna tell you Jewel always wanted him, whatever. But when he was trying to win over Jewel, he probably never left the towel there simply because I'm trying to win over Jewel. I got a winner, so I'm gonna just do it. 9, 10, 11 years in, and that's gonna hurt my friend. It's gonna hurt the love of my life. I'm just not gonna put the towel there anymore. Doesn't mean I don't respect her as he'll tell you, Jules, the love is. It doesn't mean I don't respect her as love. It doesn't mean I don't know my place. It just means my motivation is different. Before it was winning her over. Now it's keeping her happy. And it's similar. At least that's how I look at it with God. At first it was I started off being lawless and trying to get in line like the Israelites and having to get the Mosaic laws and having to get the 10 Commandments and breaking these bad habits. And then eventually he's like, yo, you got your motivation has to be different. You have to be doing this because of the love you have for me and the love you see I have for you. Keep your rituals. I don't need them. You have no relationship with me. Throw it all away if that's the case. And I think that's where we have to look at it is the motivation changes over time. It's just, that's my friend, and I don't really want to hurt my friend, or I don't want to really hurt the love of my life, or whatever. Them sad makes me sad. It's not worth it.
How do you feel? Does it resolve your issue, create more issues?
It untangles it a little bit.
And you ask, is it different per person?
Yeah.
In
It
a way, I
does.
think it is. My expectations of Jared is going to be different than my expectation with Avanique, my expectation with Z, because our relationships are different. My purpose for our relationship is different. As God says, you got this is your purpose. And I'm holding you to this standard. That ain't Avanique's purpose. That ain't Jared's purpose. This yours. And so how I deal with you is how I deal with you.
Mm-hmm.
And not even just that. I think time plays a difference in it because I think for me, I have always felt like I needed to always be up here with God. And there were times when I felt like I was closer to God when I was constantly reading the Word, constantly reading Sister White stuff, and I felt like my life was on track then. But then that person, I don't think that person could have handled where I am now. And so I feel like because life has kind of gone on, I've aged a little bit in the relationship with God, there are certain things now where it's like, okay, I can talk to you this way now because now we have an understanding, or I don't need to continually talk to you about that because, you know, like the relationship changes because we've been together longer, so I can be a little bit more reckless. I can talk to you a little bit more loosely. You know, it's not like, oh, it's new and you're still trying to just walk on eggshells.
I would say that there's a underlying will, and that is that we would be reconciled back into relationship with him. But as Sharika says, what that looks like for her is going to look different for me just because she's different to me. Mm-hmm. So the kinds of things he's going to have to do and say and work with her or motivate her or inspire her is going to look different for me. Mm-hmm. But what he's trying to do with both of us is reconcile us back into relationship with him and position us such that, you know, we can maintain this relationship and not have it go awry in the future, you know, so it grows and becomes stronger, you know, till because I'm the one at fault, till I'm totally committed. You know, it's almost like a boyfriend who cheated on you, but you're committed to working with him until he stopped cheating. You know what I'm saying?
No.
It's Jose and Goma.
I mean, but that's
right.
But that's what it is. If you
No, I get your point.
okay.
I mean, that's really what it is.
Right.
We cheating on God, and He's just waiting for you to stop cheating.
and to Avini's point about wondering why he would or if he would continue to be with you. I mean, how long is the story between Genesis and where we are in Amos? How many years have passed? Or even let's just go between Abraham, when Abraham comes on the scene, and where we are now. How many years have passed? Well, how many things have happened? And here he is still begging the people, oh gosh now, do right now. Oh gosh now. I bring the belt and you still don't do right. I love you up and you still don't do right. At what point does he give up? And here he is, and he still says it, these are my people. So much so that when he sends Assyria to deal with them and Assyria overdoes it, he punishes them because these are my people.
Yes, before that.
Yeah. So, was it the verse that I read in Amos, where it's talking about God being intimate? Like, God was pretty much saying, because I've been intimate with you, I have to punish you. I was kind of just like... Because you're my child, you catching licks.
The closer we get, the more I hold you accountable.
Right. And that for me was
That's
kind of
a
just
scary
like...
thought.
It's like when you get beaten for your younger sibling.
Right.
That's never happened to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
Here.
Right, it's like...
I understand it. I'm trying to think if that ever happened.
I know it did
Not
for
about that
me.
lifestyle.
My grandma used to do that to me all the time.
Everybody catch their own licks.
You'd be like, no, you I just got two. Like, we both got some, and then I got one on top for allowing you to do that. It's like, wait, what? Like,
You should know better.
Didn't have any control over that. Like,
You should know better. That's how my mom
Does that
used to say.
untangle it some more?
It untangles it some more. I just need to get to where Avinik was talking about, where I'm not looking at and myself. So
Let me ask you this before you go on. How will you know when you're faithful in your relationship with the mister? When you are faithful? Forget what he is doing or not doing. How do you know when you are faithful in relationship? And from your end, things are...
how do I know if I'm faithful? I just know it.
You just know it? Why doesn't it work the same with God?
Because what's faithful to me in God's eyes is garbage.
Is it?
it's still unfaithful to you, too.
Huh?
It's still
Is it?
unfaithful to you.
What's
as
unfaithful? What's faithful
Let
to
me
me?
ask you this. How are you able to tell what's faithful in a human relationship and not what's in a relationship with God? Why are those two so vastly different for you?
Because again, and I hate that I didn't get to see the whole of Pastor Graham's sermon last week because I had to go upstairs. But whatever you consider righteous, like for me, I don't think I'll ever wake up.
We're not
and say
talking
I'm
about
righteous,
your
good.
works. We're talking about the nature of your relationship. How can you tell when you're faithful to a relationship versus when you're not faithful to a relationship?
To God,
Any relationship.
I just know it.
How you know when you're faithful in your relationship with your parents?
I just know it.
Communication stop.
When I'm unfaithful or faithful.
Both.
Right, like if I'm being faithful to my parents, like I don't lie to them.
To your relationship with your parents, yes.
Right, I don't lie to them. I talk to them, and
So it starts with an understanding of who they are and what they want, and your understanding of them,
correct.
and then how you respond to your understanding of them.
Yes.
Right. Why would the relationship with God be any different?
Because it is different.
I'm saying all relationships, no matter the differentiation in the relationships, all relationships have a commonality. You would say? The things that are common in all relationships. Yes?
Yes.
To grow, every relationship requires time,
Right.
intimacy,
Mm-hmm.
and faithfulness.
Mm-hmm.
So why would faithfulness look different? I mean, yes, it would look different, but why would you not be able to tell?
Because it's that when I'm dealing with it's that servant master thing that I think I struggle with more. Because to me, it's like I do everything you want, not some. My parents can tell me what they want to tell me. If I don't want to do it, I don't do it.
Are you faithful then?
Yeah, I'm just being true to being an adult.
I'm an adult.
That's all that is. I can't do that with God and be like, God, I'm adult. I got this. I can't do that.
You
I
can.
I got this.
I can, but I'm outside His will then.
Yes,
And
but
that's-
then it goes back to the Lord, Lord, I know you not.
'Cause that's exactly what this verse
So
says.
then it becomes easier for you to get into that thing right there. Lord, Lord, I know. I don't know you.
No. What you just said
Mhm.
is how you get to the Lord, Lord, I know you not.
Right. So, but with my parents, it's not the same because
It's-
they do understand that they don't. I don't want to say own me because my dad.
But
will
God
tell me he
understands
owns me.
that too, because he,
But-
he tells you make a choice. If you say, "Yo, God, for real, son, I got this. I see. Go ahead, do your thing. I'll be right here." It's no different.
Yeah, they're just consequences.
Is it right? You just gonna have to take yours. Same as you might have to take it from your parents. It's just you gonna have to take it. It's the same concept.
Same kind of choice.
And it doesn't mean he's gonna rain down brimstone and all that stuff. It's just you made that choice, and these were the consequences, good and bad. Because consequences doesn't necessarily mean negative.
Mhm.
These are the consequences of the choice you made. If you want to go ahead, bro. I'm gonna be right here. That's all he says. But you gotta own it. Just own that you chose that. Like how you're owning it with your parents. Yo, me a big man. I me have sense. I'm owning it. Like.
And that is at the root of that posture. I's a big man, I have sense.
I got it.
Is what happened with Eve in the garden. Eve wanted to be a big man,
That's it.
so to speak. The devil said, "You will be like God, knowing the big and evil." He's like,
Sounds good.
I got big man, I have sense. I know you say not to do that, but I can do it anyway. And then what happened is sin entered the world. I mean, the earth, because it was there before, but you understand what I mean. All of it stems out of that. God said, please, don't have any other gods before me. Don't take no other man on the side. And steady they take in man.
I big and I have sense. I can manage 2 man one time. I mean, that's
But
it.
and that's how, you know what, that's what he even describes it in Ezekiel. In Ezekiel 16,
Yeah.
he describes it like that.
Just like that. And
You
you
know
know, getting
what's
abused by it. Too.
Yeah. You take him man and get abused.
So I'm like, I was listening to all this Isaiah, and I'm just, there's a certain part where God's like, come now, let us reason together. I was like, man, like he just went from turn up to can we have a nice conversation? Like, let's just talk real quick. And I was just like, yo, that's an interesting position to be in as God. That's real interesting because if it was me, I'd have been like, I'm not doing this with you anymore.
Yeah, but that's the chance you take when you give free choice.
Yeah.
You know, people have the choice. And it's one of the reasons why, you know, sin doesn't come back again, because everybody who makes it in has made it a habit of making the choice in favor of the relationship. You know, Revelation talks about the people being sealed in their forehead. They're firmly committed to being faithful in this relationship. And one of the challenges that I have personally is how all of us understand what it means to be faithful in our, you know, romantic relationships or personal relationships, and can hold other people accountable, but somehow with God it doesn't translate the same way. You know, like, you better not cheat on me, and he's looking at you like,
But that is.
But you know, so I'll speak for myself. But for me, it's when you grow up getting religion and thou shalt not, and we do this on the Sabbath, and we do, and it's kind of just like, all right, I'm just doing the routine, I'm just keeping these rules. They say you have to read your Bible and pray every day. I don't really know how to pray, so I'm just gonna read the Bible. I don't really get anything when I'm reading it, but I'm just gonna read it because that's what the rule says to do. And then you get to a point in your life where you're just like, this is not working. And I am at that point in my life where I'm like, I want to go back and I want to unlearn all of the things that I have learned in my 25 years of life about church, God, and religion, because this ain't it.
Here's the awesome part about God. He's built into our system of life relationships that teach us about relationship with Him. At one point in life, we were all children, so we know what it looks like to relate to a parent. Some of us have had bad parent-child relationships, so that colors it. Mm-hmm. But we've all been children and all understand children, parent, and at least the dynamic of what it could or should look like ideally when it works right, even if we haven't had that experience. Then you also have, you grow up and then you turn around and have kids, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. Or you know somebody who has kids, or you become an auntie and uncle to somebody who is a kid, mm-hmm. right? And so now you understand what that relationship is of caring for someone, reaching out to someone, loving them even when they mess up, but wanting them to do right. And then you have that intimacy. And even if I'm not supporting this idea, but even if you had it's a nice politically correct way to say this.
It's almost after 9, bro. Let it out.
Even if you had a same-sex relationship, right? The same kinds of rules govern that relationship that allow you to experience the faithfulness, unfaithfulness, giving and sharing, coming to mutual understanding, the need for communication, the need for time together, even in that flawed, even in that flawed relationship or relationship type that's not really advocated, and I'm not supporting it, clearly. But you still have the opportunity to understand and experience that. And I'm saying all those relationships reveal enough about God that we navigate those all so well. Why is it that we can't translate those things into the relationship with Him? Because it's
I don't think we look at God as friend.
Well, I'm not necessarily, yes, friend, but you don't always look at your parents as friend, but you understand that dynamic, right? Your parent wants you to do what your parent wants you to do, and you understand that dynamic.
Yeah.
In the ideal.
No, I was there.
But and it doesn't take. I mean, sometimes it requires some classes or some talking with other people to better understand your parents and and understand where your parents are coming from, and you have to deal with. Yeah, because some of us don't come naturally. We don't always have good parents. Sometimes our parents are flawed, and so it impacts our ability to relate. But we all know how to be faithful to. We all know what faithfulness looks like in a relationship, and we can tell when we're hurt by unfaithfulness in a relationship, whether it be just a regular friend. When your friend does something to hurt you in a relationship, you know what that looks like. You know what that feels like. And then you know what it looks like to maintain the faithfulness. Why does not that extend to God is the challenge.
So for me, I think where I tend to struggle is the fact that this is somebody who knows what my tomorrow is like. Mm-hmm. This is somebody who says, I have a will. I actually have a purpose for you and I want you to live in it. Now, if I'm with my parents and like my mom used to always say to us, I need you to go to school. I need you to make sure when you get to school, you study, you da 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 da. Like I knew exactly what it was she wanted for me. You know what I mean? It's different when I'm dealing with God because sometimes I'm thinking, as many times as I struggle with certain things that I'm thinking like, okay, God, I think I'm right here and I'm staying right where I'm, at least in my mind, and prayerfully thinking this is where I'm at. Then something just goes awry or whatever, and something maybe that I thought, okay, definitely God has this lined up for me and I know this is God's will. No, it's not. But then no one is there to say, that wasn't what I wanted for you. Unlike my mom who would sit there and say, did you really fail math? I told you that you're not going to make it to the 4th grade if you don't pass math at 3rd grade. I'm struggling with this whole. We're not communication, yeah, but it's difficult to communicate two-way with someone that I don't know when he's gonna talk to me.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
I get what you're saying.
I think that's what makes it a little bit challenging sometimes, because then I'm like, Lord, I want to walk in your will, but you gotta say something, dude. If I'm not right where I'm supposed to be, I'm gonna need you to nudge me a little bit. Something.
So this is where you jump in from having an experience of not hearing him and then learning to hear him, just like she. Yeah. So she's gonna share her experience a little bit.
So I was somewhere in between where both of you were like, this isn't going to work. This whole rhetoric, this isn't for me. And I don't know if you're talking to me, God. A lot of times it's in my head. I found that one, God understood my confusion and started to use others to speak to me. And it would be very clear. Like, Jared would be like, God told me to tell you, blah. Awesome. This works. Now it's not in my head. This, I can get it. But then he would do these things that would stop me in my track. Because I was the one who believed in coincidence. I always believed in coincidence. Like, if there's a free parking spot, you cannot tell me that God gave you that spot. It's a coincidence. Ain't got nothing to do with God. No, God on the man for your spot. Alright? And so things would happen to me that had to cancel out coincidence. Still using Jared to say, alright, I'm going to show you how to separate yourself from me. And in the meantime, I'll just use my messenger for now. Or Vanessa. Vanessa would drop things off on me and she'd be like, this is weird, but here, take that. Eventually, once I started to say, okay, I'm trying to understand what's happening. Now, these things were life-changing. They were horrid. But I'm trying to understand what you're doing here. I'm trying to understand what you're doing here. I'll never forget the day that Jared said to me, God said, when exactly are you going to stop using me and start listening to yourself?
Remember that day too.
And I was like, wait a minute. That was not on the list of things. And so I say that to say, at some point that excuse is going to expire. Because you're the one that's holding back the conversation passageway between you and God. Now, that doesn't mean you don't want it. I'm saying maybe the form that you want it in isn't the form by which he's choosing to speak to you.
Yeah, I hear that.
I mean, I feel like God knows I'm a slow learner in a way.
But I want to, not even that you're a slow learner. Like, the way he wants to speak to me isn't the way of comfort. Because if it's in the way of comfort, then we go back to who is it? Is it me or is it him? And so, like, as you said with your mom, you know what your mom is going to say. It's an outside voice. It's someone you're looking at. You see the projection. You're now dealing with someone who is not seen. And it's going to have to be uncomfortable in order for you to differentiate the two. At least until you understand the voice. And then you get to that point where you know you're unfaithful because you just know.
How did you get to know what your mom wanted?
She told me.
No.
Oh, she made it clear.
No. After you left your house. Like, for example, if you tell your mother no, does it ever bother you that you just told her no?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't like to tell her no.
Why not? You're grown. I'm big on have sense. Why?
I don't know. It's just not a good feeling when I tell her no.
What is that feeling?
I mean, I just don't like to disappoint her.
Why do you feel you're disappointing her with no if that's what's for you?
Because she wants something else and I want something else. Like,
if you feel that something else is for you, why do you feel you're disappointing her?
Because I don't know. Like,
I would say give that some thought, because it's similar to the relationship with God. You're doing something and you're going to feel like you're disappointing him. Why?
But yet sometimes I don't feel that way. I feel like I'm doing what he says to do, but then it's like
just because something negative happens doesn't mean it's what he did. It doesn't mean it's not in line with what he wanted you to do.
true.
And so I think a lot of times we hold God to that. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Which some cases I wanted you to bust your face. That's what I wanted for you. This doesn't mean it was bad. I needed that to happen. And as humans, we think negative. That was messed up with God. That doesn't mean that, and it's a hard thing to swallow. You might really be in line, and he may be saying, Z, you're gonna have to break this cycle that every single time you don't get what you want, you think is that I didn't want it for you. You're gonna have to realize that sometimes not getting what you want is exactly what I want for you, or not getting what you want messed me up too. Didn't like it. It hurt me. But there's no your negative reactions in life are not proportionate to God's will.
Say that again.
Tweet that.
Can you tweet that?
Your negative reactions to life is not proportionate to God's will.
Take Jeremiah, Isaiah, and that one prophet who God said to go and say something, and the king slapped him and locked him up in jail. Like, yo, if I know this was going to happen, I stayed home in my bed.
Right. Wow. Was that the right message?
Yes, I sent you to go and tell him that. And you thought, yes, he will listen and everything will go well.
Exactly.
No, you end up in jail. You end up in jail until he come back from his trip and he dead. So you stuck in jail. God, you really tell me to go and talk to this man?
Right. That's what was supposed to happen.
You have John the Baptist, that we read about this week.
Yeah.
He ended up in jail for what he thought was doing the right thing.
But so our devotional, we were doing a devotional with Sherry this week, and it talked about that. And one of the people from the Bible they used was Joseph. Like, he caught the L.
The mean L.
And it wasn't just about God building him up. God was trying to save everyone, and he just had to take the L. And reading that story, I was kind of just like, because it was talking about God's purpose and God's will, and how like things will happen even if it's in a negative light. Like it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you directly, and it doesn't mean that God is trying to punish you. There could just be something that needs to come out of it, and he just, it's gonna have to set aside with taking the L.
Ask your boy Job. He was minding his business.
Minded his whole business.
He lost all 10 of his children, all his money, and he got chronic disease. Just so.
Guy was minding his business, living his life right.
And your friends, what you do wrong, Jen? I just wake up and do
And it's not even like the devil was like, oh, I saw this dude Job, you just be blessing him. The Lord was like, have you considered
my servant Job?
Like, what are you doing?
Offering
That's minding my business. Man. But it is hard though. Like, for me, I think my biggest trip ups are centered around the things that have gone in a way contrary to what I wanted. And so I have felt as if God, maybe, I don't know, I have always felt like either I was not in his will or God was just punishing me. For what? I have no idea.
One of the things I wanted to point out from what Sharika was saying is that after a while, through interaction and attentiveness, Sharika was able to distinguish the voice and distinguish the mode of communication. Because she may have been looking for a text message and he was writing emails. And she figured out, alright, he emails. And sometimes he calls or FaceTimes. Right? But he don't text message me because when he text message me, I don't fully understand what he's saying. So he just write long emails, for example. And so it comes around that we have to, he promises, if you seek me, you'll find me when you seek me with your whole heart. And that was her mistake. Because she said, all right, I'm going to give this thing a try or else I'm done. And he started to try and talk to her. And grow the relationship to where At first he had a middleman, and then he said, no, I just want you alone. I want to talk directly to you. And she had to say, okay, I'm ready to hear from you, and where are you talking, and what are you saying? And what he did, and if you follow her stories, and it'll take too long to give you all of the examples, but over the 4 years that we've been doing this thing, he started to show her that, yes, I am the one talking to you, and there's no way that you can have this happen, so that now she's sensitive and aware of, okay, what is happening here, and is this him? Or he would do something, and she would say, if this is you, let me know for sure, and then it would turn out in a way that there was no doubt, that there was no way it could be anything else but him. And so she's now become aware of the voice as it speaks to her, and now their relationship is growing. So the key is trying to be attentive to hearing his voice and knowing his voice and seeking it wholeheartedly, and being okay with I wouldn't say not always knowing, but with the thing that happens that doesn't look like him. That's what I meant. The thing that happens that doesn't, being okay with that. Because for me, when I know it's him from up front, it doesn't really matter what happens on the back end, because he said do this. And so if there's a storm, that's okay, because I'm sure he said it. Right?
You know what's funny though? So I had approached God on a bold level, and I was frustrated at work, and I was like, okay, at the end of July, you need to tell me, you need to find me another job, and you need to find me an apartment that is going to be reasonable priced. I am done, just like that. And I didn't give God the time frame that I asked for. I kind of just started stressing myself out and getting mad before the time frame was over. And literally July 31st came. Before July 31st came, I got an apartment for lower than I was quoted. And then the last day of the month, the answer to the new job was no. But my supervisor, well, I didn't hear God say no, but the conversation I had with my supervisor, I recognized that was the no. My supervisor came to me and he was like, because you're taking so many days off in August, I'm switching your role. It's going to be less stress on your plate, and you will have to do it for 90 days. You can't just do it for August alone. So if you want to accept it, it has to be for 90 days. And so it was I'm not giving you a new job, but I'm going to take something off. I'm going to take some of the stress off your plate for the next 90 days. So it was kind of like, okay, I am okay because you responded. But when he doesn't respond, I just feel like, I'm going to tear my hair out now.
Well, here's the thing. I can tell from my experience. Sometimes he's not responding because we've talked about this before. like
there's nothing else to say.
There's nothing else to say.
I've already told you.
I've told you
and
already.
I made it clear.
Leave me alone. Like, and we don't want to accept that. But if
we hoping he changes his mind.
But that's the same thing with regular relationships. You know, even as women, I tell this man already. I'm not repeating myself. You're gonna talk to yourself in text message for a little while longer. I mean, this is just what we do, and so like it tickles because, like, as I said, I could kind of look back in hindsight and say, hey, you're not answering me. And he's like, no, you just don't want my answer. And so that's your business, chick. Carry on. And sometimes that's just it, but I think we're trained to say, I ask, you respond. Mm-hmm. I do this, you do that.
Yes.
I this and this, and he's like, you don't have that expectations of random humans. So what you got that of me for?
And
like,
I recognize that so the same thing will manifest itself in multiple different ways, and it will all boil down to, Avanique, do you trust me? Right. Like literally, I kept applying for apartments, and I couldn't get the price I wanted, and I was just like, I'm just gonna be angry about it. And then God didn't even it wasn't even like, I'm gonna rebuke you or you just gonna be homeless for a little bit. It was just, here you go, decent price. Not even gonna say nothing else to you.
In my case, this random lady, she's not really a lady. We figured that out. This is a random person. This is an extraterrestrial.
For real?
No, we're not kidding.
We're not kidding.
Like, so we talk about that after, but this is an extraterrestrial that popped up, and she told me to do 2 random tasks. Very random. And I was like, WTF. Like, not even H.
But before I
F.
go back, she been praying and asking God to help her with this situation.
Move. I need to get out this apartment. Move it. I need to get out. And they're not letting me out. And this extraterrestrial pops up. And she's like, you need to do the 2 following things.
She called her by her name.
I don't know this lady from Adam's cat. I come out, she comes out of her car, she parks next to my car, open parking lot. You know, I'm pissed. Why did I make that park next to my vehicle?
The whole parking
The
lot.
whole lot. And she parked right here. And she's like, hey, how you doing, Sharika? Don't even recognize it at first. She's like, how about you do these 2 things? Yeah, cool. Later. I take care. You know, I just run into this lady in all white, in a white vehicle, who asked me to do these 2 things. He's like, really? It's like, yeah. Went on in my life. I can't get out this apartment. I'm not moving out of this apartment. Jared, 3-4 days later, was like, did you do 2 things the lady said? Which lady? I didn't forget about the lady. I was like, no. He's like, maybe you should do the 2 things the lady asked you to do. They're not related to my situation. But fine. I'll do the 2 things that the lady asked me to do.
Before you go on, I need you to know from this story that she has been waiting on the people from her apartment building to respond to her request for whatever it is she was requesting. I don't know what she was requesting. She's been waiting on them to respond to her request. She's been following up with them and can't get an answer. Nobody answering the phone, nobody returning her email, nothing. Alright, go ahead with your story now.
So, I was like, fine, I'll do the blasted things the lady asked me to do because they got nothing to do with it. Within the hour of me finishing the second one, the apartment complex calls and gives me exactly what I asked them for. I've been chasing them. Within the hour. Boom. And I was like, what? And one of the most outlandish things she asked me to do was like, contact the senator. Like, it was outlandish. It was just like, this has nothing to do with what I want.
Dip 7 times in the Jordan.
Right? It was just like, what? Why? And so, like,
No, that's literally what it was.
Very
dirty.
That water's dirty.
Can I
I
dip-
open source.
Can I dip somewhere else?
All this water right here.
can you help me with my current issue, chick?
Right. Don't tell me go anywhere else.
And it was that. So I laugh because it's just like, it may seem like you're not, you're not listening. And he's just like, yo, if you just do what I ask you to do, whether you see the relation or not, do what I ask you to do, and I'll take care of what needs to be taken care of. And in Avanique's case, it's just do what I ask you to do, whatever that is. I asked you to trust me. Just chill out for a minute. All right, fine. You want to worry yourself? Keep going. Like, I'm going to keep rejecting whatever this, or allowing it not to go through.
Self-destructing. And he was like, okay, they go to your little apartment.
Now that you've stretched yourself, lost a couple hairs, got yourself together.
Got yourself some gray hairs.
Like, and so I say that to say, going back to the point, just because it's a negative situation doesn't mean it's proportional to his will. And funny enough, what happened with my apartment situation. Remember 2 years before that, I was looking for a home. And where I live now, the home I was looking at was on the other side of my home. Like, I could look at my home and look at the home I was looking at. And they were arguing with me for $5,000. And I am a stickler for cash. And I was like, y'all are not getting $5,000. I don't care how many you want, which put in the mortgage. It turned back around. Something happened. I had to get out of my apartment. Something happened again. I went to Carnival and I was like, God, if I come back and you don't give me my house, I feel business that I'm staying right here, blah, 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 blah. And all happened. I ended up back at the same spot on the other side of the street.
People who leave all kind of thing in the house.
2.5 years later. With a fully packed house. So.
I'm going to transition all of that to say one of the things that I've learned, not just from my experience, but walking with Sharika and other people, even my mom, is that the apparent blessing, the tangible blessings of comfort and things that you want, plus the uncomfortable things that you experience are all the same. God's priority isn't necessarily your comfort, but your learning to be in relationship with and trust Him. And so he does what he needs to do to facilitate that. And almost, I would say 100% of the time, the actions that he chooses or allows are geared towards growing that in you and other people. And so if he bless you with the car you want and you have this nice testimony, now you've learned to trust him and you tell it to somebody else. But then when you have somebody break into your house and you go through this hell, because he wants to teach you the same lesson, right? But if I just bless you, you mightn't learn it as well. And so underpinning all the things that you're experiencing is that trust. That is his priority. And so I've learned to process the things that are happening through those lenses so that I don't get discouraged when the things that I asked for this, you took me here, and then this other thing happened that now makes me question. Now I realize, you know, what you really asked me to do is trust you, and this is facilitating that, and that's his priority. Because when he deepens the trust, or we learn to trust him more, the relationship grows, and now we're more faithful, right? Because we saw how well. That's typically how it should work, because it didn't actually work that way for the children of Israel.
Eventually, some of them.
Some of them. But then again, narrow is the way and few find it. Most of us looking for the broader road.
Right.
And so that's why we miss it. Right? But yeah, but that's what he's trying to facilitate. And he's working all of us together in this, you know, like you saw the movie Crash. Everybody's lives crash up together because he's trying to do that with each of us. And so that changes the way you receive the things that he's doing when you understand that that's his greater priority. Shari says, just trust him no matter what.
She said, I'm going to need y'all to get out of my experience. John would said obedience.
Yeah. How does that help you, see?
Yeah, I need him to communicate. I'm gonna need him to talk.
Player, you don't want him to talk the way he was talking to me. That, sir, we don't have to do that again. We good. When the cameras come on, we can talk about how we talk.
So what I would challenge you, Z, I know you've been reading along with us, and you have been, you know, benefiting from it, and it's been a great experience. It's been helping you, but I want to challenge you to start spending this time as hearing from him, right? And listen to what he's saying. So almost saying, all right, God, I'm coming to hear from you today. What are you saying to me? And read it that way.
That's what I always say, though. Before I read, I'm always like, Lord, teach me something. Can I?
That's not what we said.
That's not what I said.
That's
See,
not
you
what
just,
we said.
that's not what I said.
Okay.
So, let me see if I can find one example. Aha. So, back in 2010, I was liking this girl, and, well, let me put it this way. I treated the girl bad. I treated her badly. But that was because I didn't want to invest in anybody. I was guarding myself because I was afraid. I didn't realize that I was afraid. I did not realize that my life had so many transitions in it that I was afraid of change. And so I wouldn't give of myself to people because I knew that there was a change coming. And I didn't want to have to deal with that. I didn't enjoy transitioning primary school to secondary school to college, like all of those transitions, moving from America to Trinidad, and it was just, so I didn't do that for her. I went away to school and had the first class was like a therapy class for me. It's like, oh wow, all the highs in my life were when things were steady, and when things changed, that was what I would describe as lows. I wasn't aware of that, so I wanted to try again. I wanted to make it up to her because, you know, I cared about her, but she had already transitioned into something else, and I was hoping against hope that this thing would work out, and I was praying and asking God what to do, and the daily Bible reading was that day. Acts. It was the book of Acts, and there's a story of Paul on the ship that was going with prisoners, and Paul said to them, eat something, because I hadn't eaten for 2 days. Was it? You didn't eat something and gather your strength, because the ship is about to crash. This ship will not make it. It's going to crash.
We have some food.
And get up and eat to save your strength. And in that moment, I heard God say clearly, this thing not going to work out. And stop starving yourself. Get up and get yourself together.
Wow.
But I was coming looking for him. I was coming every day just looking to hear from him. I would even tell you, like, the group I was with, we prayed and asked God, what do you need us to do? Right? We're not sure what you're saying. We're thinking about these things and we prayed about it. We all using the same reading plan. I kid you not, for the next 81 days, particularly at key days where the group met together to sing somewhere or did something or whatever, on those days, the word was saying, I need y'all to keep this together and keep doing it. Nobody else was reading it, so I documented it. 81 days, every day, there was something that said, I need you to keep doing this thing. I need you to stay together. I need you to... We didn't do it. We broke up. But I was able to see how there was no way that I could have gone in the Bible and dig up those things. And I didn't come to the word trying to find out. I was just doing my devotion, and in the devotion, I was trying to hear from him. So it's like, you know, when you commit to somebody to spend time with them, you know, this is your time, this is one-on-one time, this is personal time. That's what I was coming to my Bible reading as. I was not reading it just to read the Bible anymore. It was, I said I was going to carve out time to you. This is where I'm going to listen. And he used that to show me his will. Now, he started to do it in other things as well. But I'm saying, change the way you approach this from teach me to talk to me, dialogue with me. Because what you'll find is that he starts to talk.
So Shari says here, teach me something is different from talk to me, Jesus. One is
Wow, I didn't even read
transactional,
that.
the other one is intimate. When you approach your friend, you don't engage them by saying, teach me something.
John says, do you ever hear your own voice and think it's God? Of course, all the time. How do I tell the difference?
See?
I mean, the question is, do I want to know the difference? Let's start there. So, like, if I want to know the difference, just being honest, sometimes I'm like, yes, sir, that's what I want, I'm out. If I want to know the difference, most times, as Jared said, the devotion for the day is going to clarify that. Or the devotion before I need to make the decision is going to clarify that. Strangely. And here's the strange part about this plan. This plan set since 2008, 2012. 2012, it's set. So every day, every June 1st is going to be the same thing. But ironically, every June 1st is something specific to that June 1st that the plan didn't know was coming that day. I'm not saying that's specific to this plan. I'm saying that is God coming into any situation to demonstrate how clearly he can speak to you in that situation with the details of your situation. If you're truly looking.
If you wholeheartedly seek it.
Spoken to. Because a lot of times we don't really want to be spoken to. And that's okay. And he's aware of that. So it's like, alright, you don't want to hear from me, that's cool, bro. I'm like, no worries. I'll be over here when you're ready.
Because I don't want to hear my own voice. I'm just saying.
This right here has been transformative for me to hear his voice. Because I don't...
Right, and so he speaks to Jared very clearly in the writings, and he seems to speak to me very clearly in the actions. But we're two different spots.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about
Yeah,
last
we were
week.
talking about that last week at Water for the Thirsty.
At Water for the Thirsty. How...
He used to speak to me by sermons. Like, I would travel and go somewhere and be like, the guy was preaching specifically to me. And it's like with Sharika, he transitioned me to hearing directly. And it keeps me here because then I'm like, well, I'm facing a situation and I don't know what to do today. And then I look up and I go, but I didn't spend time in the Word today, so I don't even know what he feels about this. Let me go and see. And then sometimes I would back read because I'd miss, and I'd go and back read and say, you know what? If I had read that this morning, I would have been able to handle the situation later in the day without fail. And I'm saying that since 2008, that has been the case for me. That's what, 10 years now? 10 years now. So I want to encourage you to transition your reading that way. for season 5
Yeah.
and see what comes of it. And to be careful.
Uh-oh.
Now, Sharika will tell you, when you decide to do this wholehearted thing,
Jed, it's not right.
when you decide to do this wholehearted thing, the ride becomes,
Very rough.
it comes out of your control. Let me put it that way.
It feels like when I'm Back to Future rides.
You no longer, it's like the steering wheel jumps away and you just on the ride. So just be careful.
Just put on your seatbelt. That's all I can tell you to do is what does.
It puzzles me how sometimes you can almost hear, you can almost see that this is God, and then sometimes it's like, and for me, I think I struggle more with God, is this your will for me? You know what I mean?
I think
Than anything else, because it's like, at the end of the day, if I'm saying to myself, or if I'm saying to God, I just want, all I want is just to be in your will, period. Like, I just want to be in your will. But yet, as a human being, you can't really,
so. What if you just said, "Hey God,"
you know what I mean?
what if you just say, "Hey God, I just want to be your friend. Show me how to be a better friend." Look, see what that looks like. Because, like, when you say I want to be in your will, in some cases that can be translated as I want to make sure I dot all my I's and cross all my T's.
Mm-hmm.
Where back in Deuteronomy, he's like, I don't really care about that.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a lawless person, Z, excuse me. You're not lawless. We're past that. So, how about we become friends? Show me how to be a better friend. And see what that does.
When you say, show me your will, what are you asking? What are you really saying? What are you really asking? Because I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Like, I don't want to live my own thing, because I feel like that's easy to do. You know what I mean?
So are you talking specific moment to moment, specific situation to situation, you're looking for his will in every situation? Like, is it your will that I eat a cheese sandwich or a chicken sandwich? like that, is that what you're talking about? Because his will might just be that you eat and you eat healthy. And he don't really care whether it's chicken or cheese.
Just eat. He's starving.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, where, because let me tell y'all something. Like, I'll be hearing some stuff happen and I'm just like, God, like, for real, like, you gotta come out and say something. Like, this is major. Like, this would change my life. This could impact my life. This could, I mean, come on. Like, stop being quiet and say something to me. Or stop giving me little hints. I need you to, like, just say, here.
But you
like,
know what though?
for real, boom.
So,
like, let's go.
let's do this. Matthew chapter Matthew chapter 11, verse 1. And I see you, John. We're going to answer your question. Oh, Sharika already hit that up. Yes. So, while we're looking, I'm going to say this. God deals with us. No, let me say it out loud. John would ask, is it okay to ask for multiple confirmations just to make sure you're not hearing your own voice? Not doubting, but making sure.
Mm-hmm. What was the story with the blanket and the ground?
So, there are several stories with situations like this. There is Zachariah, John's father, and then there's Gideon.
Right, Gideon.
Right. The difference between, and then there's Mary, the mother of Jesus. Right? And the difference between the situations are the individuals and the nature of the relationships. Gideon was in an apostate state where he kind of knew about God, but he was so far away from God that he didn't really know him. And so, in order for God to reach him, God had to accommodate his spiritual state. Zachariah was serving in the temple and teaching people about God. An angel show up, and he's still asking for signs. So God had to deal with him accordingly. Like, dude, you in a different space from Gideon. You can't I can't relate to you like I relate to Gideon because you're in a different space. You're supposed to know better.
Right.
You're supposed to know better. And just because you should know better, take dumbness.
For a while. Till the baby gets in.
Right? Mary was neither Gideon or Zachariah, and her posture was, I'm your servant, may it be done to you, may it be done to me according to your will. And so I'm saying that to answer John Wood's question, to say it depends on where you are with God. And let's look at John the Baptist now, because he's like number 4. John the Baptist, read from verse 1 to 6.
After Jesus had finished instructing his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and preach in the towns of Galilee. When John, who was in prison, heard about the deeds of the Messiah, he sent his disciples to ask him, "Are you the one who is to come, or should we expect someone else?" Jesus replied, "Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is proclaimed to the poor. Blessed is anyone who does not stumble on account of me."
Right, now, I have any read Isaiah 35, 5 to 6.
I think you're going to mention the part where he's like, yo, why am I still there?
I will.
You said 35, 1 to 6?
5 to 6. 5 and 6.
5 and 6. Okay. Then will the eyes of the blind be open and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then will the lame leap like a deer and the mute tongue shout for joy. Water will gush forth in the wilderness and streams in the desert.
Alright, and add on. Let me check it first though. Isaiah 61. Isaiah 61 from verse 1 to 3.
The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn, and to provide for all those who grieve in Zion, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, the garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. You said 1 to 3 or 1 to 6?
1 to 3. Alright. Now, quickly, Sharika, Luke 4, 14 to 20.
And Jesus returned in the power of the Spirit to Galilee, and a report about him went through all the surrounding country. And he taught in their synagogues, being glorified by all. And he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. And as was his custom, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath, and stood up to read. And the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovering of the sight of the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And he rolled up the scroll and gave it back to the attendant and sat down, and the eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him.
Susie, when Jesus responds in verse 4 of chapter 11 of Matthew, go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news proclaimed to the poor. What do you think Jesus was saying to John?
The works.
So, Isaiah wrote this how many years before Jesus to talk about what the Messiah would do, right? John is in jail. He ain't get a visit. He ain't get liberated. There's no chance, no real expectation that he's going to be freed. And so what does he do? He asks Jesus, Are you the one?
Are you the one?
And here's where it starts.
Wait,
It
there's,
says,
there's an important part that you're missing.
yeah,
John also told the story of Jesus as said by the prophets.
right, right. And he says he heard about the deeds of the Messiah. He heard about what Jesus was doing. He was able to observe what was happening. And whatever he heard caused him to doubt. After he was the one who said,
This dude's gonna be like this.
behold the Son of the Lamb of God. He's the one who declared it. He saw him pass by and said, that's the one. Now he's asking,
He's
Are you the
like,
Because I'm uncomfortable and you ain't come get me.
you supposed to come here.
and
You
what did,
supposed to come get
what did
me.
Jesus answer? What was Jesus' response? Don't forget what I told you.
Don't forget what you read. Of
Right.
me.
I don't even have to answer you. Like, here's what's happening.
That works, yeah.
Just tell him what's happening.
Remind you of what you preached about me.
Look around and see if the evidences are demonstrating the answer to the question you're asking about as written in the word.
The word that he knows that Isaiah knows. That John knows. He knows John knows Isaiah.
And so he was careful in saying what to say back to him. Because those words would call that verse back to mind. So Jesus didn't come back and say, yes, I'm the one. He said, stop. Take a stock of yourself in your situation. Remember what the word says. And now look at what's happening.
It ain't about you, John.
The signs are around you if you stop and pay attention.
Well, John was also selfish,
Wow.
But I think
Why?
John
But
wanted to
I
roll
think-
with the homie. He felt like he was supposed to roll with the homie. It goes back to the your current situation doesn't mean you're outside of God's will. You're
Right.
where I need you to be, John. One of the only reasons why he asking if it's the Lord is because I'm supposed to be
Are
here.
you,
If
are you,
it's
are you gonna come destroy everybody and let me out?
Trying to get
Because I
out,
would like
right.
to know
You,
what's happening.
yo, bro, I showed him it was you, bro. So why am I still in here? Like that. That's all it was about. It was,
And he lost his head in a real
Man.
undignified manner. Like
Right.
he was sucking a mango.
I
But wait, today? I ain't even bathed yet. I ain't brushing teeth, nothing. What is happening here today? How you gonna do that to me? I was faithful to you. I preached. I baptized your son. And this is how you making me go out like this?
That's so funny because I was watching the Bible with my brother-in-law the other day, and we were watching the movie, and we were watching how the disciples were just dispersed, how everything just went crazy after they went here, and how their lives ended. And so after literally when they were talking about John and how he got, exiled, and then, Revelation comes in, and we're like, this is not a cool walk. Like, what's up with
It's
this?
not.
Like,
Take up
it's
your
not
cross.
cool. Like,
It's
it's not a cool walk. Every one of them. Like, I'm just like,
And James went early.
oh my gosh.
James was
really?
early in the game.
Right. And we were like looking at each other like, you believe this? Like, this is ridiculous.
Peter gets rescued from jail how many times? At least twice by angels, and James is dead. In the first scene. He's probably the black man.
John.
I think that
Black
we
Lives
have
Matter.
become accustomed
Black
to
Lives
believing.
Matter.
Oh no.
Good point, Shari. Sorry.
We have become accustomed to believing that good comes from God and bad comes from
The devil.
the devil. And so when life is good, God is blessing me. But when life is bad, God's angry with me. And as Sharika said,
Or I'm not in his will.
right, or I'm not in his will. And it doesn't mean that you're not in his will. It just means that you're just going to take the L right now. Because
It's your turn.
there's a purpose. It will all work together for good. You don't have to see it. Just chill.
Were you here when we were talking about defining good
Yes, I was.
and redefining good?
Yes, I was. And that has been my central theme for the
This is
past 2
good.
weeks don't count. But
This is good.
overall, that
If you
has
trust
been,
him more, it worked together for good.
It does. And so here's what I learned coming out of that little situation. Like, legit, the way it worked out, it was kind of just like, all of that, you didn't really need to do that. And for me, I kind of felt like this isn't new. God does this stuff all the time. You may not have the comforts that you want, but you are sustained, and God always proves himself, and you always do this. You always panic attacks, crying, angry, frustrated, mad. I'm just going to sit here and just start self-destructing. I'm just going to have a temper tantrum for no reason, because God always comes through. And for me, it was an opportunity for me to be like, nah, God's got it, and let it go. But in the moment, I was like, I don't really want to hear about it being good. I'm angry, and I'm going to dwell in my anger for 2 weeks.
I'm taking that one. The good is that I learned to trust him. The good is that I'm faithful no matter what.
Yeah.
If that happens, then it work together for good.
Yeah.
That's 3 Hebrew boys. The God I'm able to serve is able to deliver me from this. But if he chooses not to, no, I must still be faithful to him.
Mm-hmm.
I must still trust him, and I must still do what he asks. No matter what. No matter what. So I did have a question that I wanted to ask, and hopefully it won't take too long. Matthew chapter 4, 1 through I guess you all were in church, so you all may have, I got the answer afterwards, but what is the role of the Holy Spirit when I'm being tempted?
For me personally,
while in the midst of my temptation, what is he doing?
It's something that's saying, you're bugging, and you know you're bugging. That's what I've experienced. Or the Holy Spirit all of a sudden randomly, I was gonna do something I wasn't supposed to do, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna do it. And then Vanessa calls my phone. Vanessa never calls me that late, and so it was kind of just like, oh, okay, I see what you're trying to do there.
I ask that because of the way the story is told. There's clear mention of Jesus, the Spirit, the devil, and some angels. And the way they all seem to interact, I had to ask myself, what is the role of the Holy Spirit? Because it looked like Jesus was out there on an island by himself.
I was going to say that I feel like they be sitting back looking at the battle. Like, let's see how this was.
Like, I heard that, the Holy Spirit makes a way of escape and blah, 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 blah. But in this story, it feels like Jesus is out here on an island by himself.
And they watching.
Because the angels don't come in until after the temptation is done.
Come to get him after, yeah.
They don't help him out. There's nobody whispering in his ear.
It reminds me of like a karate kid. Like, the master's teaching you, and then it's time for your challenge.
So I'm gonna sit here and watch.
Fight.
I'm gonna sit here and watch.
Right.
But I mean, there was
a
way of escape. He still had to go through it, but there was a way because he got through it. He didn't give in to it.
But my master had to watch me fight. Like,
yeah, he didn't come and give him
or say move your hand this way, or but it didn't say. He just watched me fight. Like, I feel like that's what happened with me and Tempted. It's my time. It's my challenge time. It's my time to level up. And so either you gonna fight and pass, or we're gonna stay on this level. You're not getting a new belt color. That's your problem.
So we're just watching.
This is how I feel about the Holy Spirit and angel. And even in this story, they were watching. They were just sitting back and seeing one. Boy, that is really Satan talking to the son of God like that. He 2 bucks. And 2, wow, he's really all man. Because he's allowing this to happen and literally just calling on the words of the prophets. Like, but we're not going to touch him. Like, he's now committed to being man.
So,
like,
I mean, what would have happened, though, if they got involved?
The whole plan would have been
right, because then Satan would have been like, well, see, it don't work because you had help.
But he can say the same thing for us.
Right.
If they get involved, look, you're trying to save them. Like he did with Job. He's like, yo, I'm going to go do what I got to do. And now I don't want to hear nothing. And God's like, as long as you don't kill him, that's fine. He had to
Right.
sit back and watch.
So Shari says the Holy Spirit actually led him into the temptation. I believe because that's how God shows us who we are and what we are made of.
It's the challenge. It's the challenge time. It's time for you to earn your new belt color.
Are you saying, Shari, that his role is to bring us to the place of temptation?
No, I'm not here for that.
Is that what you're saying?
You can have that. Not have no stuff.
Right.
Like
Like we
the
can
Spirit
skip. We
leads
can
us
skip
there.
all of that.
Skip all of it. I'll just stay a yellow belt. Sounds good to me. I'll just stay.
So no, I wrestled with that the Saturday morning when we were up at the retreat, and I came downstairs and I talked to Harold and I talked to Abby, and we dialogued about it, and it was listening to Pastor Graham's sermon on the way home from the retreat that the gaps got filled in, because the story says the Spirit did lead him into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil, and you could almost assume that he was there for the 40 days and 40 nights before the temptation. So he was getting help and preparation in the 40 days, 40 nights. Then he was left to the challenge, but he was prepared. And so where we kind of landed was, we landed there, but Pastor Graham kind of showed it in the sermon, and it's like, the role of the Holy Spirit is to help facilitate our preparation. And then to attend to us, or to send angels, or to attend to us himself afterwards. But in the midst of temptation,
Your own buddy.
You're chilling. Oh my God.
no, because it's almost
you've
like
been
it's almost like a
prepared.
teacher who,
Yeah.
who preps the student, and then the
And it's
student
test
can,
time.
and it's test time.
You're right. You gotta fight.
You gotta show whether you know this thing or not. And you know, it have some students who you know, but he ain't gonna make this test. But
You're ready.
he ain't ready.
But you gotta let him fail.
And then you have other students who you can send and say, he got this. You can do whatever you want. My student,
Joe.
he got it. Joe. But it was interesting because had Jesus not taken the opportunity to prepare from before, he wouldn't have been able to handle the test. And part of his preparation was the time he spent in the Word, because then he was able to not just pull it, but pull it and correctly apply it, so that when it was misapplied, he could contextualize it and say, well, that don't really mean that you really need to add this part to it, because...
So I have a question. You said, so when it's, so that he was ready for the test. I always interpret it as test time is test time, which is why some of us fail and some of us pass. Because as you said, there's a student that you know, they're not ready for the test, but it's test time. And so, whether Jesus was ready or not, because right now I'm not hungry, so I don't know if he's ready, but it's test time. You know, and I think all of our lessons are time bound, not as far as earthly time, but in the large scheme of things, time bound. And it's either you're moving on or we're going to go back to this lesson. Whether you're ready or not, it's test time.
Man.
Yeah.
So,
Out here getting
Shari,
left back both.
I hear what you're saying about the role of the Holy
Still in
Spirit,
kindergarten.
but we weren't talking about the role. I was not asking about the role of the Holy Spirit in general and what his function is, period. I was asking about in terms of this scripture and temptation. Or let me rephrase my question. From the scripture, is there anything that we can glean about how the Holy Spirit interacts with us when it's time for temptation? I mean, not just talking about his general overall role, because what you said is correct about his overall role: to convict us of sin, God's righteousness, advocate for us, prep us and convince us about the coming judgment, carry our truths up to the throne of God. Yes, all of that is his role. I'm asking about this story and what this story teaches us about, or doesn't teach us about, how his role in the temptation process. And just specifically that, just narrowly that is what I was asking about.
Do you see Leah's question? Or is it Leah? Would he have been left there if he wasn't ready? Test time is test time.
Test
right?
time is test time.
Yeah.
You gotta make...
Because it would
gotta
be,
make use
it
of
would
the
be
prep
an
time.
unfair advantage for them to be like, nah, we have to postpone it because he's not ready.
and he wasn't left either. So like the story doesn't say they left him. Just says they didn't. They were just aside. Just
They
Yeah,
didn't
couldn't get
engage.
involved.
right. They weren't on the map. during test time, they just kind of didn't engage. He said, just allow the test to happen.
Because as soon as the test was done,
Here we are.
the angels came and attended to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Mike Tyson. Once he get hit, his people come and give him the water and they fix his face, and they're here, they're watching, they're just not in the ring.
I'm probably gonna misquote, but I'm gonna do it anyways. I think it's early writings, or one of them, and she talks about the fact that like they were just on edge, like waiting, like
Can I get in?
I'm ready if you need me, and God was like, just sit down, relax.
So Shari says, but it isn't to prove we are ready to God. He tries the reins of our hearts. He knows whether or not we are ready. I believe it is for us to see the things I mentioned above and to know if we are ready. Agreed. It's not I would argue, through James 1, I think it is, that temptation and testing, because it's the same word. Same word means both.
Yeah.
It's to reveal fidelity, but not necessarily to God, but to you.
Your current state. Yeah.
And it gives you an opportunity to determine what, where you are. It's almost like a self-assessment. A testing is really just a self-assessment, because the teacher kind of knows
exactly
where you are before you write a test, based on your practice and your study.
Right. Your homework. Little things.
He kind of knows how you're going to respond on the test. So it's not for me to know, but it's for you to know, and for you to do the work that is necessary to prepare yourself to be able to start. Because the point of testing is to allow you to be able to function in whatever capacity that the testing is meant to prepare you for.
Listen, I had this one teacher. He would just be in the class and talking about some of y'all not gonna make it out this class. Throwing all manner of subs. And he accidentally gave me the wrong grade, couldn't fix it. I was set for the rest of the school year.
Yeah, it's not about him, it's about you.
And I ran this by my dad, and he was saying, a lot of the reason that a lot of us are struggling so much, and we're not just talking about temptation, but when our response to trials and whatnot is because we ain't taking time to prepare.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing the due diligence on the prep side.
You're not watching the syllabus either.
She raising my stress.
You're not watching the syllabus.
It's like, what is this? What have I walked into?
Bro, I told you this was coming. You wasn't listening.
And the test is the same for everybody.
That's
the thing. It's the same thing. The numbers change.
And they got saved prep tests too. The whole Bible is saved exams.
Yeah. Practice test.
So can you do a thorough? Is that even possible for you to do like a self-assessment that
the test
even holds?
The test
water?
reveals.
So, for example, if I'm in, I remember being in strength of materials class. I was like, I know this stuff and I really know this stuff. You see, when I took that exam, this revealed to self that I don't know this stuff. So, that it did nothing more than to, disprove my argument. And that's all.
I know you have a choice. Study more. Ask for help.
Right.
Get extra lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Something.
Get a tutor or something.
But that is the self-assessment. We don't know this. It's cool.
So we're going to take one from you and then we'll try and close up.
What was that? We were in Matthew 7 before, my favorite misunderstood place ever. 7-7, man, I laughed to myself at 7-7. Through 10, right, or through 12, sorry. The whole ask and it will be given. It's my favorite. It's my favorite.
I'm asking, you ain't giving it, Jesus.
Favorite waste of time, misunderstood verse ever. But I looked at it a little differently. When I dissected it this time, and it says ask and it will be given to you, it doesn't necessarily say ask for what you want and I will give you exactly what you asked. That's not what
I interpreted it.
That's not what it says.
That's not what I said. Or door, it says knock and it'll be open to you. Like I tell people, I didn't send for you, but if you come for me, I'm going to give you a gift. Right? You knock, it's open. That doesn't mean when it opens, that is exactly what you wanted, but I'm opening something for you. And the reason why I was looking at it that way is because in its literal sense, people believe it's a genie rub. And that's not what he says. That he doesn't really say that. And also he's talking in the context of you being in his will and all that other good stuff. But it just kind of turned my eyes on to just who are evil know to give good gifts to their children. How much more would your Heavenly Father give good things to those who ask him? And finishing with the I'm not giving you anything bad kind of reminded me, but that doesn't mean you didn't ask me for bad. You may have asked me for bad and I gave you something else. Bruh. I told you I'll never give you anything bad.
Sharika.
Depends on how you're defining bad, because let's jump to Amos chapter 4. You didn't bring it up, but this was verse 4. Go to Amos 4 verse 4. Go to Bethel and sin. Go to Gilgal and sin yet more. Bring your sacrifices every morning, your tithes every 3 years. Burn leavened bread and a thank offering, and brag about your freewill offerings. Boast about them, you Israelites. So this is what you love to do.
They give you extra offerings.
Yes. I gave you empty stomachs in every city, and lack of bread in every town. Yet you've not returned to me. I will withheld rain from you when the harvest was still 3 months away. I sent rain on one town, but withheld it from another. One field had rain, another one had none, and dried up. People staggered from town to town for water, but you did not get enough to drink. Yet you've not returned to me. Many times I struck your gardens and vineyards, destroying them with blight and mildew. Locusts devoured your figs, your olive trees. Yet you've not returned to me. I sent plagues among you as I did in Egypt. I killed your young men with the swords along with your captured horses. I filled your nostrils with the stench of your camps. Yet you've not returned to me. I overthrew some of you as I overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. You were like a burning stick snatched from the fire. Yet you have not returned to me. I say that to say that if we keep in mind God is defining good on his own terms. And
all of that stuff was good.
All of that stuff was good.
I won't withhold anything good from you,
Because
good beating,
because
good food, good anything.
Because the beating was good to try and get you to course correct.
He who does not hear must feel.
Yeah.
So you gotta ask yourself,
It's like you say, you don't have in mind
the concerns of
the
God.
concerns of God. The concerns of God. You're looking at it from a whole different perspective. I don't really care about that stuff. My good is not your good. But you keep asking me for good, So when I hear good, I think my good. So please be specific. Is it your good or my good?
I'll get the good belt and not the bad one. Got you.
My good is that you trust me and that you return to me from
your own way. It reminds me what you're saying. Turn me full circle when you're like, God, I want to be in your will. Wait, that's not what I planned. That's what well, listen here. You ask me for my will, not your interpretation of my will.
Yeah.
Word, son. Good luck.
Because, as you said, there's a way that seemed right unto a man, but the end thereof is death.
This is what I wanted.
Yeah, that's what I think is right. Whatever your will is. My will might be empty stomachs in every town and lack of bread in the city.
And having you smell of stench.
That might be my will.
This will might be seasoned.
Because I need you to come back.
Because I need you to come back.
Man.
I need you to trust me. I need you to respect me. I need you to be faithful to me. All them things are tied together in his will. And all of the actions, I would argue, and it's just Jared now, I would argue that all of his actions are geared towards that.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
You can't do it any other way.
If he could, he would.
Lie.
You won't listen.
But I think God knows
what you will
right,
respond to.
right. God
True.
knows you.
True.
Like I'm not little tap on her shoulder, little tap on her wrist. Ain't gonna. I need to give
I'm
a
sure there's
two
some
good
things
lick.
if you do for Khalil, it won't respond. It won't happen in the way that. Yeah. Cool. Alright, well let's takeaways. And those of you online, please takeaways. We're about to do that now. Yeah. The last of the takeaways for season 4.
Wow.
4 years. Should we go 4 years? 4 years.
It's not a relationship I never wanted.
Oh,
It's like a college. We're graduating from college now.
Do I have magna cum laude or summa
Magna
cum laude? Where am I right now? Because you graduated, I don't know if you in your PhD program or you out there doing a fellowship.
And she finished early.
And she finished early, I got so takeaways.
You wanna start?
No, start.
I'll
Hi,
start.
Joshua. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna completely misquote what Sherika said, but the bad things that happen are not. Bad is not from good is not from God alone. Bad is wait. No, I'm gonna first
Did you
start
say
real
it?
quick. Philly.
Did you tweet it?
The negative reaction in your life is not proportional
Right.
to God's will.
That just because bad comes doesn't mean that it isn't something that was intended for good, or it could be something God is using to intend for good for my life and for His purpose.
You remember to define good the right way, His
Right.
way.
Yeah.
Vanessa? Z, you ready?
Yeah. It's a lot, but I think I'm gonna go with one. The will of God is the will of God. It's not. Has nothing to do with me. I think
It has nothing to do with you, girl.
absolutely nothing to do with me. So, man, that's hard. No, it's so hard. That is so hard. Oh my gosh! Wow. But man, the will of God is the will of God. Like, pretty much it could be anything. You know?
At the root of it is your trust in Him. At the root of it
Is our relationship
is the relationship.
by any means necessary?
By any means
Right,
necessary.
But see, sometimes I'll be thinking like, God, we don't have to do this. We can do it another way. I
Then
get
it's
it. Like,
not His will is yours.
right. So that's what I'm saying. His will is His will, for real, for real. Like, His will is His will.
Please, guys online, share your takeaways so that we can all benefit from it. I appreciate it.
In a huge way. You kidding me? I planned my life,
Oh.
and I knew what I wanted at this point,
Swerve.
but it's not happening now. Right?
Kanye West style.
Yield.
I can't.
You see the big sign, the big triangle, red and white. Yield.
Ah,
Poor Z.
far from my plans.
You know, this takeaway I don't think has anything to. I think the takeaway is deeper than today, right? So, just short and sweet. I'm an introvert and I don't like people that much.
Won't he do it?
I still don't.
Won't,
But I feel like I'm
working on
being
it.
forced to socialize.
Won't he do it?
But I'm not sure why. So, but I think through
It's all for
tonight,
your good.
I think my socializing is to do what I even hate even more than socializing,
Which is what?
which is testifying.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hey,
And
Man,
so
hallelujah.
it's gonna be a fight. So I'm gonna lose the challenge. I already lost in round 1, maybe 2.
Oh,
But I feel
do
like
it.
that through this conversation, I feel like that is my next challenge.
Oh man, look at
But I
you
don't
4
like
years
it.
later.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Look at you 4 years later. I'm
Magna cum laude.
No, we give it a summa. We give it a summa. We give it a summa. All 4.0.
But yeah,
Give
I
her a free bump.
thank you. I like my little section.
But let me ask you this though. How do you think you have changed in the 4 years? How has this experience changed you, or has it changed you, or do you think you've changed in the 4 years?
I definitely have. I've changed. My approach to people has changed. I think my approach to people has changed because my approach to God has changed. So, for example, I saw God as looking high, sitting high and looking low, and I would keep distance from people for that very reason. I can be present, but not be felt. And so now that I'm seeing slightly, I understand His role in people's lives. It's forcing me to move from concept to execution with my role in people's lives. If that makes sense.
Yeah, Jesus out here transforming lives.
So, as I said, I think now we're working into execution. I understand the concept. I don't like the concept, but because of the person God knows I am, logic trumps emotion. Logically, I get it, and so it's just a matter of me going to Nineveh.
All right, Jonah.
Whether I take the ship or is that different?
Oh, the fish.
I don't know. But I gotta get there. That's that. I know where I'm going.
And the takeaway for me is remember to define good according to His definition. That's the takeaway for me. Good is defined by Him. I think deepening it to trust and relationship. If that is grown, trust, relationship, and faithfulness, if that is deepened and strengthened, then it was good.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Then it was good. And then it worked for good.
It did work again.
Because that came out of it. And it doesn't just be for me and others. Because He uses my testimony to deepen trust and faithfulness in other people. So He's working it out for good, for those who love Him, for those who are in relationship with Him. And if I could remember that that is His priority, or that is His concern, then I can process life. I can process life differently.
I have a takeaway. I received one.
Go ahead.
He said, remember the devil's original thing in the garden was to try and convince Eve that God have us like robots. So free will, which is in facing the test without help, is a must to prove we're choosing Him and not being forced.
Oh, wow. Without help. Wow. Roberta says, a relationship with God does not have to be complicated. It is as simple as having a good friend. That's a good one. That's a good one. Doesn't have to be complicated.
Friend better than pocket money.
Vanessa?
It's funny, every time I come with fun, you don't ask me. And when I don't, this is when you ask me.
Then don't worry.
But my thing is, listening to you guys, I just feel bad because
Can you talk up a little bit?
me and the Bible, we like each other, but it's like I want to be a Christian that doesn't have to read the Bible. Not that I have anything against it. I love it. I just don't like reading in general. So it's like, I'm having a struggle when it comes to that. So just understanding that it's part of the relationship with God and realizing that it's been so many years that we've been in this journey with Water for a Thirsty. I can't say I'm read beginning to end.
No, you have to get on the couch then.
No.
Because once you get on the couch, you'll end up reading all the way through.
You
need to transition, yeah.
No, we don't need to.
Yeah.
Have you ever listened to it?
Time to enroll in school.
Okay.
School
'Cause I
is in
found
session.
I found that this week, like, I enjoyed listening to it
No, I
and
do
following.
too, but
Okay.
I just feel like
Somebody please get
was something happening.
Yes, I
Who was
know.
talking about it? I can't remember if it was on the couch or in person. But I'm stagnant, and it's not at a bad stagnant place. It's actually a good decent, acceptable place.
Until the mosquitoes lay the eggs.
But then I don't know who, I think it was Sherry. I really can't remember. But eventually, you know, it slowly happens, but you like go downhill. And like the song says, forget
Neglect
your
your
Bible
Bible.
and don't pray.
Shrink?
And you shrink. I hate that part of the song. Because I see me in it all the time. So that's my struggle
gotcha.
takeaway.
I got you. All right. Well, let's pray and say thank you for 4 years and for the ways Lord has led and provided and taught and done good to us in the 4 years. Father, we thank you again for your word and this opportunity that we have to dialogue together, to study, to ask questions, to share experiences, to be transparent, to wrestle with ideas and with ourselves. All in all, to deepen our relationships with you, get to know you better, and position ourselves to be faithful followers, faithful servants of yours. We thank you for this platform and this opportunity to share our experience with other people who may be going through the same kinds of things that we are going through, and maybe this can be an inspiration to them to dig a little deeper, drink a little more deeply of your word, seeing the transformation that it brings when we are wholeheartedly seeking after you. We lift up everyone who's been a part of this journey with us and who's contributed in some way, and we thank you for them, and we thank you for their input and the ways that it shaped and molded us. We pray that as we continue this journey, that your spirit takes it even further, not necessarily to expand the viewership, even though we would love something like that, but to continue transforming lives, because as we transform lives, the people in their sphere of influence are so much more impactful in transforming and being instruments to help others get to know you a little bit better. Be with those who aren't here tonight, keep them safe, take us all home to our destination safely as we look forward to season 5 and another go round in your word and the lessons that you will teach us and the things we will learn about you that allow us to position ourselves in submission to you is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Again, if you don't already have the app, download it. Download the app. Read the Bible with us. If you don't have a reading plan, if you don't know where to begin, just start with us.
Start with year 5.
Yeah, start with year 5. You know, and you can start from the middle, because we did start in the middle. We started in the middle. We started in August, in the middle of August, actually.
Right.
And you know, you will make the circle. And as Sharika has testified, participating in this can be transformative, and we just want to allow folks to have that experience. As Zia's shown, she's in Bible number 3. Abanique is now in a regular Bible with a Jesus emphasis, and that's a blessing. I just had to do that. It's transformative. We're here every first and third Friday, and you know there's the online forums that you can take advantage of and share. I know we haven't been sharing as much in those forums, because it's just sometimes for me so tedious to do. But I love being here with you guys, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all of your contributions and your times and your Friday nights to be here and be a part of this, to inspire others to a more meaningful walk, more intimate walk with the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name.
Well, the Holy Spirit chill.
Until the next time, when we see you in season 5. We're supposed to have a real special guest. Someone who we've tried to get over the last 4 years and have been unsuccessful to get. I'm not calling any names because I'm not sure it will happen in the beginning of season 5, and I don't want to be set up again. But just in case, we're supposed to have a special guest on the 3rd Friday in August. So look out for that and join us. Special guest.
Might even play more of the intro. I'm ready for you.
Alright. So until the next time, drink up.
Drink. You're like water when I'm thirsty. Drink. Like water when I'm thirsty.